Hey, InterVarsity alumni. This is After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. This is both an exciting and potentially tricky transition that you're making, and you might feel a little unsure about the coming weeks and months. We're here to provide you with expert advice, practical skills, and plenty of encouragement as you learn how to keep saying yes to Jesus in your new context. This is After 4, and this podcast is for you, alumni. What's up, alumni? Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. I'm your host and guide, John Steele. This week, we continue our sub-series, One Simple Way to Stay Connected, as we talk about staying connected with your chapter through advocacy. What is advocacy? How do I do it? How does it keep me connected to my chapter? All great questions and all things that we're going to tackle today. And to help us do that, we're joined by another friend and coworker of mine from the Alumni Team, Chase Reed. So let's jump right in. Here's Chase, and this one's for you, alumni. Hey, Chase, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, John. Good to see you. Glad to be here.
It's a lot of fun to get to do a conversation like this with a friend and coworker. This is exciting for me.
Absolutely. This is a first for me being on the podcast. So I'm excited to be here.
That's great. Well, you're in good company. Most of our guests have never been on a podcast before. So you're part of a cloud of witnesses that have experienced the same thing that you're experiencing right now. Chase, help us get to know you before we jump into our conversation today.
Yeah. So my name is Chase Reed. I am from Texas. My husband and I both grew up in Texas, and we actually went to college at Texas A&M University.
Okay.
Graduated in 2021. So I am a fairly new grad, I still feel. And very quickly after we graduated from school, we moved out to Denver, Colorado, and that's where we've been making our home for the past few years. And I'm also a part of the University Alumni Team. My job is really to just engage with our alumni, figure out how we can continue to love and serve them and be a meaningful part of their life beyond their time in college.
That's awesome. Man, Chase, I'm excited for you to help us along, continue helping us along in this conversation that we're having at a couple different points in the summer. We're talking about one simple way to stay connected with your chapter. And this week we're talking about advocacy. So if any of the alumni who are listening sat down with their staff worker and they gave them that like sort of 4-point invitation, it seems to me that advocacy is the one that can maybe feel the most cloudy, nebulous, confusing, like, sure, maybe I'll do that if I really understood what it meant. So before we get into like the nuts and bolts of how people can stay connected to their chapter by doing this, can you just help us get like a better picture of what it even means to do advocacy as an alum?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of vague nature of advocacy is honestly a tension that I've even felt trying to iron it out a little bit more. But the way that I've made sense of it is, in my mind, advocacy is one of the most active ways that alumni can continue to participate in the mission. InterVarsity has historically talked about advocacy as this way to share your story, being able to use your experience on campus as a part of the ministry and share that with others. I think about, going to the Bible, the Holy Spirit is referred to as the advocate, as the one who ministers to us as the church regarding the work of Jesus, what Jesus has done. So that really is advocacy. It's a way to connect other people who have yet to experience the ministry with something that has impacted you so much without necessarily having to be on staff or even volunteering. It's just sharing with the people that are already in your community about how InterVarsity has impacted you in hopes that it would be able to impact them as well.
Yeah, I like that. It feels really similar to me to the ways that we get trained in evangelism a lot of the time, that it's like, yeah, sure, tell the stories about Jesus, like what the things that he did, the ways that his followers experienced him. But what's actually way more powerful is when you talk about the way that Jesus has transformed your life.
Yes.
And or even like some show on Netflix or something like that, like it's really
Yeah.
different. It's really different to tell your friends about a show that you think looks cool and here's what I've read about it
Right.
versus like I watched this show and I stopped halfway through because I want to watch it with you because it seems super awesome. And this is why we should watch it together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. It's just telling someone about a positive experience that you've had, and you feel passionate about it and want them to be able to experience it too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think anytime we get to know people, we always talk about how like people like to talk about themselves. Like we know ourselves really well. There's plenty we can say about that.
Right.
So why not just tweak that a little bit when it comes to telling people about InterVarsity and your experience, to talk about your experience there. And just like, this is what it's
Exactly.
like through my lens and my real life experiences. And that is advocating on its own.
Right. And I think, and I'm even someone that can feel this at times, that can feel uncomfortable to me,
Hmm.
because it's easy to feel like, well, I don't want to feel like a salesperson, right? Like, I don't want
Right.
to be giving something to someone that they don't necessarily want. And, again, I have to tell myself this all the time, but um, that is something that people want and people long for. When you think
Hmm.
about families and future college students, they are longing for a community to belong to. And
Yeah.
really, that is what InterVarsity is. And that's what InterVarsity has been for our alumni. And so the idea is, let's just connect people, invite them in if they can take it or leave it ultimately,
Right.
but give them the opportunity to be a part of something that they might be longing for.
Yes. Now, Chase, in the frame that we're using for these conversations, one simple way to stay connected. How is advocacy not just a way to like tell people about InterVarsity or about your chapter, but to actually stay connected to your chapter?
I almost think about it as a liaison. Like, you are
Okay.
kind of standing in the gap between future college students that already are in school, but maybe might not yet be connected to InterVarsity,
Mm.
and essentially like close the gap for those things to come together. So it's a way to almost be an extension of the chapter that you've been a part of and invite those that are already in your community into that.
Something that this makes me think of is like when we would go to conferences as students and we are reminded that like, the InterVarsity community is larger than just like my chapter is part of this
Yes.
bigger InterVarsity community that I see in my, like, whether it's an area conference or a regional conference or something like Urbana, that's a national conference. And you're like, wow, I'm a part of something so much bigger. And this just like continues to solidify for me why this is an amazing community to get to be a part of. That when you are advocating, whether it's for people who are high school seniors who are transitioning to your campus, like the campus that you
Hmm.
went to, and you can say, this is what's awesome about the staff worker, about the other students that are there, about these particular events, and the way that we have this community established that I really love. Or if you are talking about, oh, you're going to that chapter, like I have not been to that chapter specifically, but this is my experience with InterVarsity in my chapter. You get to like, your heart is warmed remembering your own chapter. You think fondly of them, and you're reminded of this larger community that you're inviting them into, that you were a part of and are a part of as an alum and as a part of that chapter.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what's cool about advocacy is it can connect you, it can keep you connected to your chapter while also keeping you and others around you connected to InterVarsity as a whole.
Yes. Yeah. It may keep you very specifically connected of like, I'm helping you translate from this space to the chapter that I know and love. Or it may
Yes,
keep you connected just by like warm reminders of warm feelings and like, oh gosh, I love the chapter that I came from. And I'm so excited to
absolutely.
tell you what it's like to be a part of InterVarsity.
Absolutely.
So then, I mean, let's just get really practical. Chase, I know that there's stuff that you've been working on in this space specifically that I think can really benefit alumni, their chapters, and potential future alumni as well. And so tell us, how can our alumni who have just graduated, like in the last few weeks or months here, how can they engage with advocacy?
Yes, absolutely. So that has been the aim of a lot of my work recently is how do we make this vague advocacy ask much more specific, much more tangible for alumni to latch onto and say, oh yeah, that's something that I can do. And so the primary way that we are doing that as of this year is through connecting to a resource that InterVarsity has created and been using actually for a few years now called Called to Campus Sunday.
Okay.
Called to Campus Sunday is essentially a 15-minute commissioning service that churches anywhere are able to use to bless and kind of send out their college students right before
Hmm.
they go to campus in the fall. So historically, this has been something that InterVarsity has given to churches directly and said, hey, this is a way to again, just kind of love and encourage your college students as they head off to campus, reminding them that they can go to campus sent, that they
Hmm.
can go to campus on purpose. And so, what we've done for our alumni is we're actually letting this be a way that they can advocate. So, to get really clear, alumni can simply take this resource to their church, their local church that they're already a part of, that they're already connected to, and say, hey, this is a way that we can love and serve our students and connect them back to InterVarsity. And so, one of the things that I think is really cool about this opportunity is, again, it's a way to advocate. It's a way to say, this is a ministry that has been meaningful to me in my college experience. And for those families, for those students that are looking for something similar, I would love to personally connect you. And so, it takes away some of those barriers, some of those unknown of showing up on campus and wondering, where the heck do I go? Where am I going to belong?
Yeah.
And allows alumni to kind of make that connection really clearly.
Chase, something comes up for me as you're sharing this, and if there's not a answer yet for this, that's totally fine. I'll just eliminate this. But
Great.
does this work also in spaces where like maybe an alum moves to a college town, but there's no InterVarsity chapter there? Is there
Mm.
still like a version of this of like sending students to campus that
Mm.
like we've got a college ministry here? Like, is there a way that this works for sending them to campus, even if it isn't to like blessing them into a particular InterVarsity chapter?
Absolutely. I think what we want to do here is, yes, obviously we want people to know about InterVarsity. We want people to have the opportunity to be connected to InterVarsity. And our aim as believers is to connect people to Jesus, period.
Hmm.
And we believe in the local church. We believe that that is how God plans to continue his kingdom work in the world.
Yeah.
And so even just giving this as a resource to churches to say, hey, this is a resource for you to bless your students. And if there are ways that we can connect you to any ministries, any churches in your college town, we would love to do that.
That's great. I love it that, you know, we have this tool set up, established. Yes, it is useful for connecting college students to a chapter, but that what stands above all of that is saying you are called to campus to follow Jesus and to share him with other people.
Right.
What matters here is that you are reminded that when you set foot on campus in the fall, that you are there, that Jesus is already there, and that he's inviting you to be a part of that. And as alumni, then, that we can hand a tool like that to our church and say, let's be thoughtful about the way that we're sending college students to campus, and let's like commission them into something bigger than just join a group.
Yes, exactly.
That there is a bigger vision that we can invite them into, and that is super cool to me.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I feel passionate about that.
Chase, this is really great. Are there any other details that would be helpful for us to know around Call to Campus?
The only thing that I would say is what's great about this, about Call to Campus Sunday being a resource that we've already been using and practicing and tweaking, is that we can make this really easy for alumni to step into. All you have to do is simply go to a link that I'm guessing will be in the show notes.
Yes.
And sign up to receive information. We can send you everything that you would need, including a bulletin, like information of how to actually give this to your church as a resource, how to help them carry it out. We want to make it as simple and straightforward for you all so that you can make this happen in real time.
That's awesome. Yes, we will make sure that ends up in the show notes, and that we can make this as plug and play as possible for you, alumni. Chase, thanks so much for joining us this week. Thanks for helping us stay connected with our chapter through advocacy and giving us a really easy to use tool in Called to Campus Sundays so that we can send college students out well as they go to campus for the first time or go back to campus next fall.
Thanks so much, John. It's been great talking about this, and I'm excited for what this could mean for our alumni and future students.
Thanks so much, Chase. Another simple-to-use resource to help us stay connected with our chapter after graduation. Alumni, you have a story to share about your experience on campus with InterVarsity. If you can tell that story, then you can advocate. And if you can advocate, then you can help the next round of soon-to-be college students get connected to InterVarsity when they head to campus in the fall. And just like you, they will experience life transformation, campus renewal, and development as a world changer. And in this way, you get to stay connected to the work God is doing through your chapter and through InterVarsity as a whole. So please take a moment to check the link in the show notes to learn more about Called to Campus Sunday and get your own kit for bringing it to your church this August. Yes, that's still a couple months out, but you will serve your church well if you start talking to them about it now and not a couple months from now. As for next week's episode, we're going to push pause on our One Simple Way to Stay Connected sub-series and turn our attention to rest for the month of June. We've spent a bunch of time recently talking about healthy rhythms as we transition to full-time work. Now we're going to come alongside that and talk about healthy rhythms of rest. Work and rest, both gifts from God, and it is so important for us to learn how to balance and engage them well. So that's my hope for us in this upcoming series, and I am excited to share it with you. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you in the after, alumni. Hey, thanks so much for joining us today, alumni. If there was anything that you learned, really enjoyed, or that encouraged you from today's episode, would you send us a DM or tag us in a story? We'd love to hear about it. You can find us at After4Pod on Instagram and Facebook. And if you haven't already, take just a second to unlock your phone and subscribe to the podcast. If your platform lets you, leave us a rating and a review. And if you like what we're doing here, share us with your InterVarsity or other post-graduation friends. Thanks again for listening, and I will see you in the after, alumni.